Welcome back to my channel. I'm Psychic Rosemary Angeles, and no, my eyes didn't magically turn blue from trans-channeling extraterrestrials. They're just contact lenses. So today we're going to start with something new, something different. I'm not going to be channeling today, but I am going to narrate something I have compiled together about two psychic mediums back in World War II and how they affected everything around them. Sit back, relax, get some popcorn or whatever you want, and enjoy the show. Jailed as a witch and branded a spy, Victoria Helen Duncan was the last person to be imprisoned under the British Witchcraft Act of 1735. She was a Scottish medium, famous for her physical mediumship abilities. Born in Callander, Perthshire on November 25, 1897, the daughter of Archibald MacFarlane, a slater, and Isabella Rattray. She worked at Dundee Royal Infirmary, and in 1916 she married Henry Duncan, a cabinet maker and wounded war veteran who was supportive of her supernatural talents. By producing ectoplasm, she was able to manifest spirits into the physical plane, who were able to speak, touch, and interact with the sitters in the seances she held. People came from all over to see the miraculous manifestations that Helen was able to produce. During World War II, in a seance conducted in 1941, Helen brought through the announcement of the sinking of the HMS Hood. Unbeknownst to everyone, the head of the British intelligence of Scotland, Brigadier Firebrace, had attended the seance. He witnessed a spirit materialize and say to the crowd, "Tragedy! HMS Hood is sunken and all the men are sunk." Firebrace promptly left to call the Admiralty to find out if this was true. They assured him that this information was false. However, 2 days later, the Admiralty called him again and confirmed that the HMS Hood did, in fact, sink. After that, Helen Duncan was a marked woman, and the Secret Services kept a watchful eye on her. In November 1941, Duncan held a seance in Portsmouth, at which the spirit materialization of a soldier named Sidney Fryer spoke to his mother, who was present for the seance, and told her that the HMS Barham had sunken and that he had drowned. Because the sinking of the HMS Barham was revealed in strict confidence and not announced to the public until late February 1941, the authorities didn't want to risk any more of Helen's wartime revelations. In the run-up to D-Day, the biggest secret of the whole entire war, there was no way they could risk another revelation. The authorities had Helen arrested and thrown into jail. Helen's trial was a national sensation. She became the headlines of many newspapers as she was being prosecuted under the Witchcraft Act. The Witchcraft Act of 1735 stated that it is a crime to pretend to have magical powers or to pretend to conjure spirits. Eyewitness accounts say the trial was less like justice and more like a show trial. Many of the testimonies were in favor of Helen Duncan's extraordinary abilities. An account by a nurse named Miss Rust, who was a midwife, had an incredible experience in one of Helen's seances. She recounts that she was confronted with her husband, who she had recognized and spoke to, as well as kissed. Another account was of a man who had seen the materialization of his deceased mother, in which he stood up and got as close as he could and proceeded to converse with her. Yet, regardless of these extraordinary eyewitness accounts, the jury still convicted Helen Duncan of the Witchcraft Act, and she was imprisoned for many months. Upon leaving prison, Helen was reluctant of conducting seances, but people began to beg her to perform the seances again, and eventually she did. A short while later, she was imprisoned again, but this time she never left. It is said that while in prison, she may have been beaten, and due to mistreatment and ill health, she suffered death. To this day, people who have attended her seances speak about Helen Duncan in the highest regard. The stunning Maria Orsic, who was a German nationalist and the leader of the Vril Society, was a medium who began to receive messages in an unknown language from extraterrestrials of the Aldebaran solar system located in the constellation of Taurus. She was given messages about the origins of the Aryan race and technology that far exceeded anything of the time period, including instructions on free energy and UFO anti-gravitational development. The Vril Society were led by priestesses known as the Vril Maidens. The Vril Maidens grew their hair long and never cut it, as they believed the long strands of hair helped to facilitate communication with higher beings. Unlike Helen Duncan, who was scorned and ultimately silenced for her abilities, the Nazis held the Vril Maidens in extremely high regard, as they were the mediums between themselves and the extraterrestrials, who gave them the technological advancements that they used and experimented with. The Nazis are now known to have built UFO saucers, which by the end of the war, the Allies got a hold of, as well as most of their research. Maria Orsic, who facilitated the information of UFO technology onto planet Earth, disappeared along with most of the Nazis. The Nazis escaped to Antarctica, where they built more UFO ships to escape the planet, in which they populated the cusp of the dark side of the moon and later colonized on Mars. They are now known as Neuschwabenland. Helen Duncan, Maria Orsic, two mediums in World War II, two very different outcomes. Far-fetched, right? But what you're about to see might change your mind.
The U.S. Navy has finally acknowledged that videos appearing to show UFOs flying through the air are real. They don't call them UFOs, they call them unidentified aerial phenomena. The several videos they're talking about were recorded years ago by fighter pilots. Then in 2017, they were made public by the New York Times. More now from our Randy Kay.
Look at this thing. It's rotating.
Images of that rotating thing captured by U.S. Navy aircraft, sensors locking in on the target. Commander David Fravor saw it firsthand during a training mission, describing it like a 40-foot-long tic-tac, maneuvering rapidly and changing direction.
As we both looked out the right side of our airplane, we saw a disturbance in the water and a white object, oblong, pointing north.
The object was first sighted in 2004, then similar objects again in 2015. Footage of the sightings, declassified by the military, weren't made public until December 2017, by the New York Times and a group that researches UFOs.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. The whole thing, dude.
This was extremely abrupt, like a ping pong ball bouncing off a wall. The ability to hover over the water and then start a vertical climb from basically zero up towards about 12,000 feet and then accelerate in less than 2 seconds and disappear is something I had never seen in my life.
The Navy says it still doesn't know what the objects are, and officials aren't speculating. A Navy spokesman simply confirming to CNN the objects seen in the various clips are unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs. The UFO reports were first investigated by a secret $22 million program, part of the Defense Department budget, that investigated reports of UFOs. The program has since been shut down, but it was run by a military intelligence official who told CNN they found compelling evidence that we, quote, may not be alone. Randy Kay, CNN, New York.
For color, you can see it actually makes a turn off in the distance before flying toward the camera. Now, I got this from Secure Team, who posts all kinds of UFO videos, and they claimed it was a type of UFO called a fast walker. Though I have to say, most of their other videos that they mentioned just look like bugs zipping through the frame to me. But the fact that this one makes a clear turn at the beginning puts this in another category for me. If it is a bug, it would have to be very small and very close to the camera, and maybe it's just an effect, but it looks like it goes in and out of focus, like it's actually passing through some space. I'm sure somebody out there is smart enough to compare different sizes and do some math to determine if this is a bug, so let me know what you think. The last one is another declassified video from the United States government, this one from the Homeland Security Department. This took place on April 26, 2013 in the town of Aguadilla, Puerto Rico, when radar picked up on a craft that seemed to have come out of the ocean and flew across the island at a high rate of speed. It tracked this object for nearly 4 minutes, recording it on infrared camera, following it as it flew just above the treetops and buildings. It's hard to say if this is another Tic Tac, it's too small to tell its shape in this video, though it appears to be slightly elongated. That might just be a video effect though. But perhaps the craziest thing is at the end of the video, you see it skim the top of the water and then slip beneath the waves, never slowing down at all. It's as if it encountered no resistance from the water whatsoever. Even more bizarrely, after resurfacing, it seems to have split into two objects and then fly in formation. Now, if you want to just have fun with this for a second and consider that this is some kind of object with advanced propulsion, you might expect something like a warp drive, which enables faster than light travel by bending space-time around it. This might explain why this object is able to pass through air and water at the same speed, because it's not actually interacting with either medium. If, of course, that's really what we're looking at here.
Absolutely incredible. This is an alien city, different alien structures, more paradigm, and it looks very much alien. It is the most alien surface I've ever seen on any planet. And the object in green here is the entire city. You can see all these objects at the back of the moon, Southern Highlands. And when we look at it in photography, we just do not see these structures on the surface. And don't forget, these shots that I'm showing you are very close shots. They're real shots. They're photos I've taken of the moon with my telescope, and I was not far from 800 to 1,000 millimeters zoom.
Hey, look, we've got these assets in space. Hey, look, we've got this technology in space. I have some other suspicions that we can get into. In fact, we could talk about that at another night or this evening about a number of things, and it has to do with the Mars Germans.
We're going to get to the Mars Germans, and I had to go back and listen a few times to make sure that that was exactly what you were saying. I was like, did he say Mars Germans? Yeah, we're going to spend some time on that.